Today I'm going to tell you a story that will move you, a near-death experience that led me to a direct encounter with God and a shocking revelation. Day zero is coming. In April 2025, something will happen to humanity, and I will reveal everything I saw. But first, comment here from which city you are watching this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any incredible stories like this. Now, get ready to discover what exists beyond life. My life in Los Angeles was a mosaic of gray days, where routine and dissatisfaction intertwined in a monotonous dance. I, Quillon Mercer, felt trapped in a labyrinth with no way out, in which each day seemed to repeat the previous one, without me finding meaning or passion for what I did. The glow of the skyscrapers contrasted sharply with the emptiness that inhabited my interior, a bitter irony in a city that never sleeps. My job in a downtown office was exhausting and meaningless. The fluorescent lights in the room, the constant sound of the phone ringing, and the superficial conversations of colleagues created an environment that, instead of inspiring, suffocated my soul. On several occasions, as I finished another tiring day, I found myself asking, "What am I living for?" These doubts echoed in my mind as I walked through the streets of Los Angeles, observing the crowd that seemed to have a defined destination, while I lost myself in solitary thoughts. "Quillon, you seem so distant today. Everything is fine?" asked Evelyn Knight one morning, when she noticed my melancholic expression during a coffee break. "I don't know, Evelyn. I feel like I'm living without purpose, like each day is just a copy of the previous one," I replied, trying to hide the anguish that consumed me. Evelyn, always so empathetic, looked at me tenderly and said, "Maybe you need something to rekindle your flame, something to bring new meaning to your life." Despite having friends like her, and even colleagues like Damian Carter, with whom I used to share confidences about the monotony of everyday life, a feeling of incomprehension and loneliness accompanied me at every step. Damian once commented, during one of these late after-work conversations, "Quillon, we all feel this restlessness, this emptiness, but sometimes it's like we're destined for something bigger, something we can't yet see." These words resonated in my mind, but in practice, I found myself drowning in doubts and insecurities. At home, the silence was also a painful reminder that despite having a family who loved me, I felt misunderstood. Conversations with my mother, Sophia Mercer, were always punctuated by deep affection, but also by a distance that I couldn't overcome. Her concern showed in every word. However, I was unable to share with her the intensity of the emptiness that consumed me. Each day was a silent battle against boredom and lack of direction. The mornings started with the same routine: coffee, chaotic traffic, endless meetings, and a feeling that time was slipping through my hands. Walking the streets of Los Angeles at night gave me moments of reflection, but it also increased the feeling of helplessness as I saw the rushing faces and lights that shined without really illuminating the path to happiness. Despite all these difficulties, I searched in small moments for a remnant of hope. A friend's voice, an unexpected smile, or even the subtle beauty of a sunset over the city were the only reminders that perhaps there was something more to be discovered. However, these moments were fleeting, and the feeling of emptiness returned with force, leaving me increasingly convinced that my existence lacked a true purpose. This was my reality before the accident, a life permeated with doubts, loneliness, and the constant search for greater meaning. Each day passed like a shadow of the previous one, until a series of unexpected events were about to completely transform this journey. That night seemed as ordinary as all the others, but fate had an episode in store that would change everything. After a long day at the office, I felt the need to walk the streets of Los Angeles to try to calm the internal storm. The air was cold, and the city lights seemed to whisper dark secrets. As I walked down the sidewalk, the rhythmic sound of my footsteps mixed with the distant murmur of traffic. But at that moment, destiny was preparing a turn of events that I could never have predicted. At the intersection of Sunset Boulevard and Vine Street, the atmosphere suddenly changed. An out-of-control car was speeding forward, its headlights casting erratic beams that reflected off the wet pavement. I froze for a moment, time seeming to slow down in a surreal way. I remember hearing the thunderous sound of the engine, followed by a muffled scream that seemed to echo inside my mind. No, please! I almost screamed to myself, but my voice was lost in the whirlwind of emotions and the deafening sound of the imminent impact. In the blink of an eye, I was hit with brutal force. The pain that followed was so intense that it felt like a spark of pure agony had been ripped from it. My body, once so familiar, began to feel like a formless object, fragmented into pieces of sensation and despair. It was as if every fiber of my being was being ripped apart, and I felt like my own body was falling apart. As the pain overwhelmed my senses, something strange began to occur. Amidst the chaos, I could perceive a feeling of detachment, as if I were observing everything from the outside, no longer contained in that fragile shell. I saw the doctors running, the tense faces of the rescuers, and the confusion around. But simultaneously, an inexplicable calm invaded my consciousness. Quilon, hang in there. You're going to be fine. I heard a voice, perhaps my own, echo amid the tumult, although the words lost any logical meaning given what was happening. It was at that moment that my soul, in an indescribable way, began to detach itself from my body. I was no longer limited to physical contours, but rather experienced a freedom I had never imagined. I floated above the chaos, observing, with an almost ethereal clarity, the rescuers' efforts to revive my lifeless body. Every movement, every resuscitation attempt happened with a precision that seemed choreographed by fate. As the doctors worked frantically, I felt a mixture of fear and strangeness, the anguish of seeing my body inert mixed with a feeling of peace, as if the physical pain had been replaced by a welcoming calm. This duality made me question, was I really dying, or was there something beyond the border between life and death? In one last glimpse before surrendering completely to darkness, I caught fragments of dialogue, of gestures of despair and hope. A nurse, with tears in his eyes, whispered, "We can't lose you, Quilon. You have so much to live for." These words, now distant and at the same time eternal, resonated in my being as the perception of my body became increasingly faint. The separation was complete. I was floating above myself, witnessing the last moments of a cycle that was ending to give way to something extraordinary. The pain and fear gave way to serene acceptance, as if that experience was, in some way, necessary for the transformation that was to come. The moment I felt my soul detach from my body, a strange feeling of lightness took over me. I was floating, far from the screams and chaos that still raged below. The environment around me gradually transformed. The colors of traffic lights and city lights became soft patches of light, while the hustle and bustle dissipated into a welcoming silence. He felt as if he were climbing an invisible staircase, guided by a force that could not be explained in words. As I ascended, every detail seemed to gain an almost palpable intensity. The breeze became sweet, gently caressing my being, and the darkness I expected to find was replaced by a radiant and serene light. The space opened up, revealing a scene that looked like it was painted by hand. White clouds floated in harmony, interspersed with golden reflections, and a soft glow emanated from every point in the sky. I felt no fear, just a deep curiosity and a calm that filled every corner of my being. It was in this celestial environment that I suddenly saw a figure that would change everything. She approached slowly, enveloped in an intense glow, and with a presence that transcended all description. The angel was dressed in long white robes that seemed to flow like water, and a golden sword shone in his hands with a light that rivaled the sun. His eyes, full of compassion, met mine, and in an instant, I felt that every particle of my existence was being bathed in infinite love. "Quilon, we finally meet," said the angel, his voice resonating with a cadence that mixed strength and tenderness. "Who are you? Why am I here?" I asked, my voice still echoing like a whisper, in disbelief at such a sublime vision. The angel smiled, and his smile seemed to dispel all the doubts and anxieties I carried. "I am your guardian, sent to guide you in this moment of transformation. You are between two worlds, and the experience you have lived is just the first step on a journey that will reveal the secrets of existence." As he spoke, I felt that each word was like a key that unlocked doors within me, opening horizons of understanding that were previously unimaginable. The environment around us seemed to vibrate with a subtle energy, and the feeling of peace was so intense that my wounds, both physical and emotional, seemed to heal in the presence of that celestial being. The angel extended his hand, and in a gesture that mixed affection and invitation, led me to a sparkling portal that formed before us. Come, Quilon. There is a world beyond pain and suffering, a place where truth reveals itself in its purest form, he said, as we walked together through clouds that danced in silent rhythms. During our ascent, I noticed that each step was loaded with symbolism. The sensation of floating was not just an escape, but a preparation to face the revelations that would come next. Every nuance of that divine environment, the luminosity, the serenity, and the perfect harmony, showed me that, even in the midst of the darkness of life, there was always a path of light waiting to be discovered. I, who had always lived in doubt and restlessness, now found myself enveloped by a mantle of hope and redemption. The angel's words echoed inside me, giving me strength to accept the transition of that extraordinary moment. The ascension was not just a physical or spiritual journey, but the beginning of an awakening to a new meaning, where pain would transform into learning and loneliness into communion with the universe. Stepping through the sparkling portal, I was taken to an immense room where the space seemed to have been carved out of pure light and shadow, similar to a celestial cinema. In this grand environment, a screen materialized before me, ready to display the saga of my existence. At first, I was astonished, not believing that this would be a representation of all my moments, the joys and mistakes, the victories and the regrets. As the projection began, images from my childhood gently unfolded. I found myself running through the gardens of my mother, Sophia Mercer's house, laughing and dreaming without knowing that the future held profound challenges. Then the narrative moved to the days of my adolescence, where, despite having moments of pure innocence and discovery, I also witnessed the first traces of doubt and confusion that would mark the following years. In the center of this screen, the adult phase stood out, where the challenges intensified. I vividly remember one morning when, faced with an important college decision, I chose to cheat on a test. At that moment, the image froze, and I could hear a younger version of myself whisper, with a trembling voice, "I know this is wrong, but I don't see any other way." The pain and shame showed in my expression as the mistake unfolded into consequences that would affect not only me, but also those I trusted. This scene, filled with regret, was followed by moments when my compassion blossomed. I found myself volunteering at shelters, distributing smiles and offering a friendly shoulder to the elderly and children, moments when my soul seemed to find traces of light even in the midst of darkness. The angel, at my side, watched silently, allowing every detail of my life to unfold without judgment. In one particularly vivid moment, I was led to relive an afternoon spent with Damien Carter, a colleague with whom I shared long conversations about the monotony of existence. I remember his words, "Kalan, there is something greater than this repetitive cycle. Maybe life is preparing us for something extraordinary." These words, although simple, echoed with a deep meaning that only now, revisiting my memories, could I understand in its entirety. Each memory was charged with intense emotions, as if the past was pulsing again in every detail. The images flowed quickly: Evelyn Knight's sincere smiles, my mother's silent concern, and moments of pure joy and, at the same time, devastating sadness. Each scene was a reminder of the times I chose the wrong path, but also the times I sought redemption through acts of kindness. As the projection continued, a sense of deep empathy for myself began to emerge. I could feel every beat of my heart, as if I were listening to a symphony that blended the chords of forgiveness and self-knowledge. The angel looked at me with a look that overflowed with understanding and said, softly, "Every choice, every mistake, and success shaped the person you are today. There is beauty even in scars." In that instant, the screen revealed not only the moments of glory, but also the lessons hidden in the mistakes. It was a true journey of self-confrontation, where each painful memory turned into a learning experience that, no matter how difficult it was, brought me closer to the essence of my being. At the end of the review, the room lit up with a comforting aura. The images slowly dissipated, leaving me with a sense of relief and, at the same time, a deep understanding that every experience, no matter how bitter, had a purpose. I understood that my life, with all its flaws and moments of compassion, was a complex mosaic that prepared me for the transformation that was to come. When the celestial screen went dark, a new portal opened before me. I felt an irresistible pull, as if a gentle force was calling me to a destiny beyond everything I knew. With the angel at my side, I stepped through the portal and, in the blink of an eye, was immersed in a scenery that defied earthly description. Upon emerging from that other side, I came across an environment of indescribable beauty. Before me lay a vast field of lush green grass, so vibrant it seemed to have been painted with the very essence of life. The flowers, in a kaleidoscope of colors, opening gently to the taste of a warm and delicate breeze, created a natural carpet that invited a serene walk. I felt as if I had reached a lost paradise, where there were no traces of pain or suffering. Quilon, look at the perfection of this place, whispered the angel, whose voice, soft and melodious, echoed like a lullaby. I, still amazed, replied, "It's as if the universe had decided to reveal its most generous face." I never imagined that peace could be so palpable. As I walked through that field, each step seemed to release a new wave of serenity. The golden rays of the sun touched my skin delicately, and every inch of that ground vibrated with a vital energy that filled all my senses. There was no rush or worry. Everything was harmony and a natural beauty that surrounded me completely. In the distance, I saw a lake with crystal clear waters, where the surface sparkled as if it were polished with diamonds. Getting closer, I noticed that the water not only reflected the sky, but also seemed to emit a soft light, as if it held ancient and sacred secrets. I sat by the lake, allowing the tranquility of that scenery to invade every fiber of my being. As I took in the surroundings, I could hear the murmur of nature, the rustle of leaves, the distant song of unfamiliar birds, and, in an almost imperceptible instant, the sound of light, happy laughter. "This place is where pain dissipates and the soul regenerates," commented the angel, approaching and sitting next to me. I agreed, feeling that his every word confirmed what my heart already intuited. There, everything was possible. I never thought that a simple step could take me to such fulfillment. I feel as if every problem and sadness is washed away by the purity of this environment. The feeling of freedom was complete. Time seemed suspended, and eternity revealed itself in every detail, in every breath of air. The beauty of this paradise was not only in the landscape, but also in the feeling of belonging that invaded my being. I felt that, for a brief moment, the scars of life were transformed into mere marks of a distant past, replaced by the promise of a future filled with light and possibilities. As the sun slowly began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple, the angel extended his hand to me in a gesture that symbolized both welcome and transition. "Quilon, this is a refuge where love and peace reign, a reminder that true beauty lies in the simplicity and purity of existence." Through his eyes, I could feel an ancient wisdom, an understanding that even in the darkest moments, the universe always holds a path to redemption. In this idyllic environment, I realized that the journey to paradise was not the end, but rather a preparation for a new stage. I was beginning to understand that inner transformation and reconnection with the essence of life were the true gifts this experience offered me. Every detail, every color, and every sound of that place served as a reminder that no matter how arduous the journey on earth, there was always a way back to the light, a place where the soul could rest and heal. As the paradisiacal landscape gently dissipated before me, I was taken to an environment that seemed to transcend any idea of beauty I had ever known. Walking alongside the angel, I felt my senses sharpen, as if every particle around me carried a divine meaning. Suddenly, the atmosphere changed, and the scene transformed into a clearing of intense light, where time seemed to stop and reality unfolded in layers of pure energy. In the center of this clearing, a majestic figure began to materialize. She wore a sparkling white robe that reflected the colors of an ethereal rainbow, and a golden crown rested on her head with a serene glow. My heart raced, but at the same time, an indescribable sense of peace enveloped me. He knew, with a certainty that went beyond reason, that he was before God. "Kilon, I am here," the voice echoed, deep and soft, resonating directly into my soul. Is that you?" I stammered, still not believing that such an immense presence was real. The figure approached, and an aura of wisdom and compassion emanated around him. His eyes, filled with a love that seemed to encompass all of existence, looked into mine with a tenderness that disarmed any trace of fear. "My son," he said, with a voice that carried the weight and lightness of all universes, "you have been chosen to see the truth that many fear to face. Every experience, every mistake, and every triumph has brought him to this moment of revelation." As these words unfolded, I felt as if every fiber of my being was absorbing a comforting, transformative energy. The environment became a stage where the divine met the human, where my doubts and fears were replaced by luminous clarity. The colors around me intensified, and a golden light, which seemed to have a life of its own, enveloped both of us, as if uniting heaven and earth in that sacred moment. "You carry within you the ability to transform not only your own life, but the lives of many others," continued God, while a gentle breeze made the threads of my existence dance. "Every action, no matter how small it may seem, reverberates throughout the universe and touches distant souls. Understand that there is no insignificance in your journey, even in moments of weakness." In the midst of this transcendental conversation, I felt that my scars, both emotional and physical, were dissolving, replaced by a deep understanding that all adversity had been necessary to shape me. The divine presence seemed to whisper ancient secrets, stories of redemption and the promise of a future where unconditional love would be the greatest force. "See, Quilon," said God with a smile that calmed time itself. "The universe is vast, and each star holds a fragment of wisdom. You were placed here not by chance, but to be a channel of light, a beacon that will help others find their way even in the deepest darkness." I feel a peace I've never known," I replied, almost moved by the intensity of that encounter. "But at the same time, it's difficult to accept that everything I experienced, all the pain and mistakes, had a greater purpose." God leaned in slightly, as if wanting each word to settle deeply into my being. "Everything, from the moments of greatest darkness to those of dazzling light, make up the great mosaic of life. And you, Kilon, are a vital piece in this divine work." For moments that seemed eternal, we stayed there, immersed in a silent dialogue where every beat of my heart vibrated in harmony with the teachings I received. I felt that the encounter was not just a revelation for me, but a transfer of knowledge, a seed planted to blossom on future journeys. Still immersed in the divine aura of that encounter, as God's words resonated within my being, I felt a change in the atmosphere. The clearing of light expanded, and all around, a vibrant energy announced something extraordinary. God, with his deep and mysterious gaze, leaned slightly towards me, as if he wanted to share a secret that had been kept for ages. "Quilon, pay attention," said God, in a soft but firm voice. "There is a coming cycle, a spiritual rebirth that will transform the destiny of humanity." My emotions were mixed. On the one hand, there was a natural restlessness in the face of the unknown, but, on the other, an intense curiosity and a yearning to understand the meaning of that new time. In the midst of this whirlwind of feelings, an image began to form before my eyes. The celestial calendar marked a date, April 2025, a crucial point called Day Zero of the New Era. "Day Zero?" I asked, my voice trembling and full of expectation. "Yes, my son," replied God. "On Day Zero, a portal of light will open, connecting all beings to a new consciousness. This is the moment when humanity will have the opportunity to purify, elevate, and embrace a truth that transcends matter." As I spoke, I saw in the distance a projection of pulsating light that seemed to announce the beginning of this era. Each pulse carried a message of transformation and hope. God continued, "This cycle is not destructive, but rather a rebirth, a spiritual renewal that will re-establish the lost balance. Those who are ready, who have cultivated the flame of faith and compassion, will be graced with a deeper connection with the divine. The revelation unfolded like a complex and beautiful tapestry. I felt that every word was engraved in my heart, awakening a feeling of responsibility and, at the same time, a deep gratitude for having been chosen to witness this great event. But how can I prepare for something so big? I asked, wanting to understand the importance of this universal calling. Preparation, Quilon, is not something that can be forced. It is the natural flowering of the spirit, a journey of self-knowledge and unconditional love. The approaching global transformation is a reflection of the internal changes that every being must experience, explained God, his voice like a beacon guiding the darkness. The image of the light portal intensified, revealing figures of light that moved in perfect harmony, representing awakened and connected souls. This celestial spectacle symbolized the union of all beings, regardless of their beliefs or origins, in a single purpose: to evolve and embrace a new era of consciousness. The feeling that invaded me was that the entire universe was conspiring for this transformation. God highlighted, many will be oblivious to this change, blinded by the illusions of the material world. But those who hear the call and open themselves to the truth will be the heralds of this new time. On day 0, love and wisdom will prevail, and you, Quilon, will play a fundamental role in this transition. As I absorbed these words, I felt as if a seed of hope was planted within me, ready to blossom in the new era that was coming. The revelation of day 0 not only clarified my purpose, but also indicated that every small action, every gesture of kindness, held the power to transform the world. At that moment, the clearing was flooded with a radiant light that seemed to unite heaven and earth, and I knew I was witnessing the harbinger of a global rebirth, an era where the divine would be present in every heart, marking the beginning of a new journey for all humanity. After the revelation of the new cycle and the promise of day 0, the atmosphere around me began to transform again, as if the universe wanted to lead me to a final and profound chapter of this journey. I was guided by the angel, who was now leading me with even greater serenity, to a magnificent building that stood before me, imposing and filled with an aura of mystery. It was the Celestial Library, a temple of eternal knowledge that contained, in its infinite shelves, the secrets of all ages. Upon entering this sanctuary of light and wisdom, I felt that each step was a dive into an ocean of history and revelations. The walls were covered in sparkling marble, and the architectural details seemed to have been carved by divine hands, reflecting the harmony between heaven and earth. All around me, thousands of books rested on shelves that stretched as far as the eye could see. Each volume radiated an energy of its own, as if it carried within it the experiences and lessons of countless lifetimes. Quilon, each of these books holds the essence of a story, a lesson that the universe decided to record for eternity, commented the angel, as we walked between the shelves. His voice sounded like an ancient whisper, filled with reverence and mystery. As I approached one of the shelves, my fingers trembled with excitement as I touched a book that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. When I opened it, I was surprised to see that my entire existence was recorded in it, from the first steps of my childhood to the most intense moments of my journey. Every detail was meticulously described, and emotions, choices, and past encounters were presented in golden letters that glowed softly in the dim light of the room. "It's your story, Quilon," said the angel with a smile, as I leafed through the pages with a mixture of surprise and melancholy. "Here lies the knowledge of who you were and who you can become. Every chapter, every mistake, and every triumph has a greater purpose." In a more private corner of the library, I found another singular tome. When I opened it, I was enveloped by a symphony of notes and chords that told the story of music from across the earth. That book seemed to be a universal score, where every melody and every silence combined to form the soundtrack of human existence. I was amazed by the idea that, just like my life, music was an expression of the divine, capable of touching souls and transforming realities. As I explored the vastness of that sacred place, the feeling of belonging and humility intensified. Amidst the books and the wisdom accumulated there, I realized that knowledge was not something that was limited to the past, but that it opened like a portal to the future, a future where transformation and self-knowledge were the keys to a new era. The angel stopped in front of a particularly ornate bookshelf and commented, "The Celestial Library is not just a repository of stories, but an invitation for each soul to expand their understanding and find the truth that resides within." I felt a wave of emotion and gratitude flood my being. Amidst the immensity of knowledge, I understood that my journey did not end with reviewing my life or with divine revelations, but extended beyond the limits of time and space, challenging me to continually seek wisdom and illuminate the path of those who were still searching for answers. Given all the grandeur of what I was witnessing, the celestial scenery began to transform again. After immersion in the Celestial Library, where every story and every melody in the universe seemed to reveal the mysteries of existence, I was led to a room with a serene aura, where the presence of Jesus was felt in a special way. He was waiting for me, with a serene countenance and a welcoming look, as if he already knew the anxieties and desires that pulsed in my heart. "Quillan," said Jesus in a soft but firm voice, "the moment of choice has arrived. You can remain here, in this realm of light and wisdom, where all pain dissipates and peace is eternal, or return to earth, to the world you know, where your mission has not yet been accomplished." These words echoed within me like an irresistible call. The surrounding environment seemed to pulse with the energy of infinity, and the contrast between heavenly peace and earthly reality became increasingly evident. As Jesus spoke, I felt a mixture of desire and apprehension. Staying there meant living in a state of constant harmony, a refuge where the soul would never suffer. However, the memory of beloved faces, especially those of my mother, Sophia, and friends like Evelyn and Damien, brought home the love and responsibility that awaited me on earth. I feel so much the peace here, the plenitude that you offer me, but my heart still longs for my mother's hug, for the simple conversations, and even for the challenges that shape me," I confessed, my voice choked with emotion. Jesus inclined his head, as if he understood the complexity of my feelings. "The choice is yours, Quillan. If you choose to return, know that a part of this peace and wisdom will remain rooted in you. Even if many of the details fade away, the essence, the love that now lives in your heart will never be forgotten." Silence took over for a few moments, while my thoughts debated between the seduction of paradise and the urgency of returning to my earthly life. Around me, the celestial environment continued to exude an unshakable calm, but I saw, in each beam of light that penetrated the room, the memory of the human challenges, pains, and hopes that still pulsed on earth. A soft, almost imperceptible voice whispered, "Silan, the true greatness of life is not in escaping pain, but in transforming it into learning and love." These words, perhaps coming from the universe itself or from the divine essence that surrounded me, deeply touched my spirit. In my eyes, tears began to form, mixing gratitude with the sadness of saying goodbye to such a sublime place. I knew that remaining there, in a state of perfection, would mean giving up human warmth, challenges, and, above all, the love of those who still needed me. "Jesus, I choose to return," I declared, with a conviction that mixed sadness and hope. "I come back so that, even if I forget many details, this inner light guides me and helps me transform pain into love for those I love." Jesus smiled, and the room seemed to shine even more brightly, as if the choice had sealed a destiny of redemption and purpose. "Then so be it. Keep this light in your heart, because it will illuminate your path even in the darkest moments." With those words, I felt a powerful transition beginning. The call to return to earth was inevitable, but the certainty that I would take with me the legacy of love and transformation that I had experienced in that celestial kingdom gave me the necessary strength to face whatever came next. When the choice to return to earth was made, I felt a wave of transition that enveloped me completely. The celestial ambiance began to slowly dissipate, giving way to a soft mist and the distant echo of voices and whispers. I felt my soul being pulled, as if time itself was bending to reintegrate me into my inert body. Still lying in a hospital bed in Los Angeles, the sensation was at once abrupt and serene. When I woke up, I noticed the familiar contours of the room, the sound of machines monitoring my heartbeat, and the presence of anxious faces around me. Jasper Reynolds, the doctor who became an anchor of hope, leaned beside my bed with a look of relief and surprise. "Quilon, you're back," he said, his voice thick with emotion. His heart stopped, but miraculously it started beating again. I tried to respond, but my words came out as confused whispers, still immersed in the threshold between life and death. As the days turned into a routine of rest and recovery, every moment was permeated with a sense of rebirth. The nurses and doctors cared for me with a gentleness that seemed to reflect the divine intervention I experienced. In brief conversations, I heard them comment, almost in a legendary tone, about that period when a man's vital signs went out and came back as if they had been reignited by an invisible force. In the midst of this whirlwind of medical care, my mother, Sophia Mercer, entered the room with a mixture of relief and disbelief on her face. One morning, as the sun timidly filtered through the curtains, she approached cautiously, holding my trembling hand. "My son, what you experienced, I still can't believe it," she said, her voice breaking, her eyes filled with tears of relief and astonishment. I tried to explain, but words seemed insufficient to convey the vastness of that universe I experienced. However, when mentioning specific details, such as the exact description of my great-grandfather, a man I never met, but whose image she kept in her memories, I felt confirmation that my experience had transcended the boundaries of the physical. Each day at the hospital turned into a chapter of introspection. During long hours of recovery, I reflected on the revelations of the divine encounter, on the promise of day zero, and on the choice I made to return to life to fulfill a greater purpose. Little by little, the remnants of celestial memories mixed with the earthly routine, as if a part of me remained eternally anchored in that kingdom of light. On a quiet afternoon, as the gentle rain pattered on the window, I spoke to Jasper again. "Do you really believe that what I experienced was real, or was it just a delusion?" I asked, my voice full of doubts and gratitude. He, with a compassionate look, replied, "Quilon, sometimes the universe touches us in inexplicable ways. What you experienced could be the reconnection between body and soul. Science still doesn't understand all the mysteries, but the fact is that you're back, and now you have the chance to transform your pain into light." Recovery was not only physical, but spiritual and emotional. After 12 days in hospital, I realized that each breath was a gift and that the experience had left an indelible mark on me. The pain, loneliness, and dissatisfaction that once dominated me gave way to a silent hope and the conviction that true transformation began from the inside out. Today, even though I lead a simple life, I carry within me the memory of each revelation, each divine touch, knowing that, with each heartbeat, the mission to transform and illuminate continues to pulsate.